Greetings, everybody. This is your favorite speaker, Dr. Ronald J. Brown. And our topic for today is the summer solstice. As I'm speaking to you, it is spring, so we have just gone through the spring period of holidays, which is Ramadan, which is Easter, Passover. Before that was the winter solstice series of holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, various other midwinter holidays. And of course, we have the fall holidays, Thanksgiving, the Jewish New Year, the Muslim New Year. But the one time period which is missing very often with religious holidays is the midsummer. Maybe it's because everybody in the Northern Hemisphere is at the beach when it comes to late June and early July. But that's what we're going to be talking about today. The summer solstice, the holidays of midsummer, or as we're going to see, their lack thereof. So once again, you see me in the picture, and that is where I spent a wonderful summer solstice when I was living in Moscow, which is far north. And as you can see, the day never ends when you go to the far north. So our outline for today is the power of the sun. Why is the sun so important? The sun and the rise of monotheism have been intricately linked. Religions and the seasons, whether it's midwinter, fall, spring, midsummer, religions have always scheduled their holiday celebrations around the natural cycles of nature. Christianizing the sun, when Christianity emerged, it took the sun and made it a very central part of its iconography, painting, and even theology. But what about the summer solstice? There are no major Christian, Muslim, or Jewish holidays in the middle of the summer. So what happened? The return of the summer solstice. Well, you can ignore it if you are a founder of a new religion, whether it's Catholic, Jewish, Muslims, Hindu, or whatever. But Mother Nature is going to remind you every summer that this is the longest day of the year, and ancient religions have always celebrated midsummer, but the major religions of the world ignored it. And then going global. This is the new celebration of the holiday as it is now being accepted more and more around the world. So let's get started. Of course, the sun is extremely important. Even in our language, we constantly refer to the sun. Sure as the sun comes up, inevitable is going to come up, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to happen. To have your day in the sun, your day of fame, moment in the sun. The sun has set, meaning something is coming to an end. A false friend in a shadow, stay only while the sun shines, meaning sunshine sorts the good from the bad. To have your place in the sun, the touch of the sun, the land of the rising sun, positive image. Have the sun in your eyes, meaning moving forward. Rise with the sun, the beginning of a new day, of a new era. Again, associated with the sun. And of course, rise and shine. Soon as the sun is up, it is morning. You stretch your arms. Oh, another day. Well, we've always been thrilled and fascinated by the sun. Millions of people go to the beach, lay in the sun, douse themselves these days with suntan lotion, but still get skin cancer. But that doesn't stop people from going to the sun. Even Florida calls itself the sunshine state. Once again, sun has a power, it captivates you. Even people talk about the winter doldrums when the sun is very weak and the day is very short. People are homebound and they want to get some sun, the new birth. When we get up in the morning, we say, "Good morning, America." Well, in the United States, it is morning greetings, rise with the day, have your cup of coffee. And we always say good morning. I've never heard anybody wish somebody a bad morning. Getting up with the chickens. On the farms, it's the chickens that wake you up in the morning. Well, the rising sun is so important that in Ethiopia, 6 a.m. our time is 1 o'clock, meaning the new day begins at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I'm speaking to you now, it is Sunday. Well, in Ethiopia, Sunday began at 6 o'clock this morning, and Monday will begin tomorrow morning at 6. Once again, making the sun central to the time. I often wonder how we got stuck with switching from Sunday to Monday in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep. And when you wake up in the morning, you're already 6 or 7 hours into the new day. Makes more logic to start the day when you get up in the morning. As we say, a new day. Well, the Jewish Sabbath begins with the setting of the sun when 2 stars are visible. And that is, in fact, the beginning of the new day. Once again, regulated by the rising, and in this case, the setting of the sun. Muslims regulate their prayer day by the cycles of the sun. In fact, New York sunsets. We love to watch sunsets, whether it's from a hotel or I go to a resort in Mexico called Zipolite, which faces the Pacific. And everybody gathers on the beach to see a magnificent sunset. And then they break into applause. Postcard, Florida sunset. Sun is very important. In fact, it dominates almost every aspect of our life. For the ancient Romans, it was Deus Sol Invictus, God, the sun invincible. Here again, you see the origins of the crown on the god of the sun. In fact, we see a hint of that with the Statue of Liberty, with the sun surrounding her head. In Hinduism, the god of the sun is Surya. Here again, you see the god on the throne surrounded by a sunburst, and you see the sun moving. It's on a chariot being drawn by 7 horses and a charioteer. The sun moves, it doesn't stay stable. The Sol Invictus holiday for the Romans was December 25th, and it was a holiday of drinking and merriment. Well, of course, that is why when the Christians had to decide on their major holiday to celebrate the birth of Jesus, they chose December 25th, because when all the pagan Romans were partying and having a good time and exchanging gifts, the Christians couldn't participate in the pagan holiday. So they said, oh, well, this is also the day for the birth of Jesus. Don't forget, there's nowhere in the Christian Bible that says Jesus was born on December 25th. It was simply a tradition. And in fact, many of the Protestant reformers opposed the holiday of Christmas. It was banned in Boston among the Puritans because there's no biblical foundation for December 25th. Well, the sun's played a major role in religions, as we saw with holidays and with the Roman pagans. But it entered another phase with the rise of monotheism back in the years 353 to 336 BC, before the Common Era, when an Egyptian pharaoh, Akhenaten, decided to reject all of the pagan gods and to create a new religion based on one God, monotheism. And this was the God who became the God of the sun. Well, of course, this experiment in monotheism, rejection of all other gods, and worshiping only one God, it was an experiment, but in Egypt it pretty well fizzled out because Akhenaten was short-lived, and his experiment was a temporary experiment in monotheism. Akhenaten is very famous because Nefertiti was his wife, and Tutankhamun was his son. You see Nefertiti, it's a magnificent statue. It's in Berlin at the museum. Tutankhamun, we see his face mask, the famous King Tut. But Akhenaten was defaced. As you can see his statue on the right. When he died, his son, Tutankhamun, returned to the ancient gods of the Egyptians and had his father's statues destroyed, wiped off the face of the earth. Forget this heretic and return to the gods. Well, of course, for Akhenaten, it was the sun god Aten. There are still many inscriptions that have survived, such as the one in the middle. You see Akhenaten with his crown, his wife Nefertiti behind him, and his children worshiping the sun god. In fact, books have been written on the influence of this brief heresy in Egypt, the worship of one god, the sun god. The book on the right, Akhenaten and the Origins of Monotheism. At monotheism, which Muslims and Jews claim to be monotheists, worshiping one God. Christianity has sort of diluted it a little bit. We have God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost, but we maintain a facade of being monotheists by saying that actually there's only one God, but three persons in this God, sort of a theological trick to unite three gods into one God. But once this idea had come into the world, the idea that there is only one God, beginning in Egypt, even though it fizzled out in Egypt, it did spread and have an influence. Most prominently, many people, including Sigmund Freud, argued that, and this is probably historically true, Moses was in Egypt at the time of this heresy and was deeply influenced by Akhenaten. Well, eventually the Jews started playing around with monotheism, although at first they say, well, there's one God of the Jews, but yet the Romans and the Greeks and everybody else have their gods. But gradually, by the time of the Babylonian exile, the Jews believed that actually there was only one God in the universe, and Jehovah, Yahweh of the Jews, was in fact the only God, and the gods of the Romans were phony gods. Well, the worship of the sun in Egypt died out. The great capital city built by Akhenaten, Amarna, was totally destroyed and erased from the face of the earth. What you see in the picture in the middle is what remains of his capital city and his magnificent temple to the one God, the God of the sun. So the sun has been important in world religions and extremely important in the rise of monotheism. Well, as I mentioned at the very beginning, holidays in world religions tend to reflect the natural passage of time. Just as we have morning, noon, lunch, midnight, day, night, spring, summer, fall, winter, just as a person has a daily cycle and a life cycle, birth, childhood, growing up, maturity, old age, and death. Well, religions have to take into account these natural cycles. For example, spring holidays. Well, as I'm speaking to you now, we just finished the spring holiday season, whether it's Passover, Ramadan, Easter, or in China, it is the Qingming festival, when people go to the tombs of their ancestors, restore the tombs, sort of young living people interacting with the past generation. So if anybody out there is going to create a new religion or proclaim yourself a god or a prophet or whatever, in your cycle of holidays, you're going to need something in the spring. That's the natural cycle. That's why we have Easter bunnies. What multiplies faster than rabbits? Eggs, new life, spring flower, tulips, Easter lilies, hyacinths, cherry blossoms, the enthusiasm, the glory of spring has to be present in your new religion. Likewise, fall holidays. In the Northern Hemisphere, you plant in the spring, everything grows, and in the fall, you celebrate the harvest festival. Well, Rosh Hashanah, for the Jews, it is the harvest festival that marks the end of one year and the beginning of the next year. This was adopted by Muslims as well. The fall is the beginning of the new year. When the United States became independent, we needed national holidays. So for this new nation of the United States, it was only natural to have a Thanksgiving holiday. We don't know for sure when Confucius was born, but a fall date was chosen, just like a December 25th date was chosen for the birth of Jesus. Well, Happy Confucius Day is a fall holiday. So for your new religion, you're going to need a fall holiday when the summer ends, people are picking the crops. Even if you live in the middle of a city, you notice sweet corn is cheap, apples are cheap, the grocery stores are packed with food. It is the time of harvest. Midwinter holidays, the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. Well, that is also a prime time for major holidays. The Romans celebrated Saturnalia, the great midwinter feast. Jews have Hanukkah, celebrating a period in their history. Christians assigned the birth of Jesus to mid-December, December 25th. Buddhists celebrate the Day of Enlightenment. Here again, who knows when Jesus was born? Who knows what day the Buddha attained enlightenment? But still, you have to assign them a period. So it would be midwinter. Well, not just seasons have to be incorporated into every religion and are incorporated. You have the great cycle of the Catholic Church, where every day has either a major or a minor holiday or a feast dedicated to a saint. The period of Lent leading up to Easter week culminated with Palm Sunday. Advent, the period leading up to Christmas. Muslims as well not only have their cycle of day holidays, but every hour is calculated so that they know at what time the prayers should be said. At the bottom, you see a calendar specifically for Toronto in Canada. At what time the first prayer of the day, the Fajr, is to be said. And see how specific it is. It changes 5:36, 5:37, 5:38, down to the minute. So that's why when you go into mosques, you always see clocks everywhere. Whereas Catholics, when they want to give a gift to the church, they give a statue. Whereas Muslims will give a carpet for prayer, or they will give a clock. And if you have any doubt, you can go online and you can be in the most godforsaken place in the world. And on the internet, you can find the exact moment for each prayer of the day. The bottom on the left, you see the intricate calendar of the Aztecs in Mexico, linking the solar calendar with the lunar calendar for all of the holidays of the ancient Aztec religion. So passage of time, cycles of nature are all very important in every religion and will have to be very important for any religion which you are inventing. The Romans eventually gave up their 8-day week and settled on a 7-day week, which came from the Persians and the Babylonians. And the names they gave for the day was Sunday is the day of the sun, dies solis. Monday, lune, the day of the moon. Martes, the day of Mars. Mercury, the day of Mercury. Day of Jupiter, day of Venus, and day of Saturn. These were the planets. And that is where we got our names of the day. Monday, we see the word moon. Tuesday comes from the day of Mars, which was named after, in English, it is named after the German god Touro. Wednesday was no longer the day of Mercury, but it became Wotan. Now in French, they keep the Latin names. In French, lundi is the day of the moon, which is Monday. Tuesday is mardi, the day of Mars. So English kept the 7-day week, but we attributed them to the German gods. Friday is Freya. Thursday is the god Thor. Wednesday is the god Wotan. But we did keep Sunday, the day of the sun, and we kept the day of the moon. So the Christians adopted the Roman calendar and kept Sunday as the day of the sun. Now, this is called Syncretic Religions, where different religions merge and adopt aspects, one religion from the other. And this is to unite and harmonize two different religions, especially without critical examination or logical unity. So gradually, Sunday, which is the day of the resurrection, became the main Christian day, again devoted to the sun. So as Christianity spread from its homeland in the Roman province of Palestine, spread into Greece, spread into Egypt, across North Africa, into Europe, and as the map at the bottom on the right shows, became the major religion of the world. The Americas, Europe, Russia to Portugal, the southern half of Africa, Australia, the Philippines is Catholic. So gradually, Christianity spread, and as it spread, it borrowed from other religions. It merged, just like Christianity accepted December 25th as the day for the birth of Jesus. So this was taken from the Romans. Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico was a merging of the religion of the Aztecs with Roman Catholicism. If you look at the picture, you'll see that Our Lady of Guadalupe doesn't look very Spanish. She is a dark-skinned Mexican woman. In fact, according to the legend, she even spoke Nahuatl, the language of the Mexicans. So Christianity spread, and it spread by adopting elements from other religions, merging them with the teachings of Jesus and creating a whole new form of religion called Christianity in its their various forms. The days of the week, of course, are still dominated by the sun. Well, not every religion adopted the Roman system. For example, in Hebrew, Sunday has nothing to do with the sun. It is called Yom Rishon, which means the first day. Yom Sheni, the second day. Yom Shlishi, the third day. So this was the calendar of the Hebrews. Below that, we see the Portuguese calendar, which also adopted the day number. Sunday is Domingo, but then you get Segunda, the second day, Terça, third day, Cuatro, fourth day, Quinta, fifth day, Sexta, and Sábado. The Japanese, they have the day of the sun, the moon, then the days fire, water, wood, gold, and earth. In Arabic, they use the same as the Hebrew and the Portuguese. They simply number the days. Sunday is Yawm Ahad, one day, number one. Well, the sun played a very important role in Jewish and Christian writings. In the book of Genesis, even the creation story, the very first act was creation of the light. Very first act of creation was, main source of light is the sun. And that began the whole creation. So Judaism had a very major role for the sun. In the Psalms, for the Lord God is the sun and the shield. The Lord will give grace and glory. No good thing will he withhold from them who walk uprightly. Calling the Lord God the sun, bringer of life, and the shield, the protector. In Christianity, in Ephesians, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. Matthew, then shall the righteous shine as the sun in the kingdom of the Father. Again, Christianity and Judaism accepted the sun as a major element in their religions. Famous prayer, I believe in Christ like I believe in the sun, not because I can see it, but by it I can see everything else. Comparing again the Christian God to the sun. Sunday ended up becoming the major Christian holiday. In the beginning, the Jews continued to go to the synagogue Friday night, Saturday, but then they would gather informally on Sunday, and they would celebrate the birth of Jesus. Well, Sunday was made officially the number one day of worship by the Roman Emperor Constantine in the year 321. And he wrote, on the venerable day of the sun, once again, merging the Roman importance of Sunday, the day of the sun, let the magistrates and people residing in cities rest, and let all workshops be closed. In the country, however, persons engaged in agriculture may freely and lawfully continue their pursuits. So here again, the day of the sun emerged as the symbol of Jesus. Look at the painting on the left. You see the resurrected Jesus with the sun behind him. So the sun became extremely important in Christian teaching. The sun in Christian art. Carving at the top on the left, you see the sunburst of the Romans. Well, it was taken over by the Christians. Jesus' face was surrounded by the sun behind the cross, signifying the resurrection. Below that, you see an icon of Jesus on the cross with the sun and the moon symbols on the painting. And on the left, you see a print of the sun with the cross in the middle. Well, as the Christians adopted the Sunday, primacy of the Roman calendar, 7 days, with Sunday being the beginning of the week. Well, why didn't the Christians make a major holiday around the summer solstice, which is the day of the sun? Usually it's towards the middle, late June, between June 2022. Well, what is the summer solstice? Well, it is the day when in the northern hemisphere, the sun is right overhead and the day is very long. At the southern hemisphere, the day is very short. In the north, the winter solstice, December 21st, is the day when the sun shines the least in the northern hemisphere. So during the summer solstice on June 21st, we have the longest day of the year. The sun is most intense. In the winter solstice, the day in the northern hemisphere is the shortest. And the sun is the weakest. So if the Christians were so concerned about the sun and adopted so much of the emphasis on the sun, which dates back to the Akhenaten in Egypt and the rise of monotheism, the importance of the sun in creation, and then the importance of the resurrection occurring on a Sunday, and eventually Sunday becoming the major day of the year. Why did the early Christians ignore the summer solstice? Well, it was interesting that the Christians pretty well didn't pay much attention to the summer solstice. But the summer solstice remained very important for the peoples of the north. For example, until today, people celebrate the summer solstice in the far northern climates. in places like Scandinavia and Alaska, northern Canada, northern Russia, Finland, Sweden, Iceland, where the winters are so cold and long and brutal. The summer solstice in June remained a major holiday. The Christians ignored it. And so as long as you went to church on Sunday and you were a good Catholic in the northern climates, the summer solstice became a people's religion, a folk religion. And they called it a pagan religion, where the people realized that the Christians had neglected this very important day, but they continued to celebrate it in their ancient traditions. The Vikings, for example, were famous for their summer solstice celebration, dancing around a bonfire, jumping through the fire, wearing feathers in your caps, dressing in white, young girls celebrating their newly found womanhood. And so the summer solstice, which was neglected by the Christian church, remained a pagan fortress. One of the most famous holidays is, of course, the celebration at Stonehenge. I don't know why I put two of the same pictures there. I have to go back and change them. But you see people gathering in Stonehenge, which is about 80 miles from England, going back thousands of years before Christ. People continued to gather and celebrate the ancient pagan holidays with the rising of the sun showing through one of the archways, illuminating the passage. And so you can see that there are not only the people who believe in the ancient religions of the Anglo-Saxons and the Celts and the Vikings and the Slavs, but tourists are also gathering. Now, I experienced the summer solstice in the far north when I was living in the Soviet Union back in 1992. It was on its way to becoming the Russian Republic. But I was there for June 21st, 1992. And as you can see, the day never ended. I was out helping some friends gather chicken and eggs from the chicken hutch behind it. In the back, in the distance, you see a Russian Orthodox wooden church. The day never ended. On the right, you see me with some of my students who are eager to learn conversational English. Well, I would get up in the morning and the sun was already there. I would finish my classes at 7 or 8 or even 9 o'clock in the evening, and the sun was still shining bright. Now, needless to say, the exact opposite in the winter. But it was the days which never ended. This was my favorite place in Moscow, the Serebria Bor. Huge beach along the Moscow River. You can see the Moscow River meanders through Moscow. And at the far north, they had a magnificent riverside beach. And that's where the sun worshipers go. Now you can see the picture. There are not too many people there and they're wearing shorts, but when I would go there, it was a nudist beach with thousands of young people and older people, and Russian grandmothers would pull up in a motorboat selling vodka and roast chickens and sandwiches to the beach goers. It was a place to worship the sun. Now, in Russia, the holiday of winter solstice has taken on a Christian name. It is called the holiday of Ivan Kupala. Ivan meaning John. It was named after John the Baptist. And so it assumed a certain Christian dimension, although it was not a day for going to church or anything like that. There were no major holidays for it. You see at the picture on the upper left, people go out into the forest, dressed in flowers and celebrating the summer solstice. The bottom, you see 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. Never gets dark. In fact, Nikolai Gogol, the great Russian writer, wrote a story which he named The Eve of Ivan Kupala. Here again, you see a Russian filmed version of it. So it had a slight Christian tint, but it was never a major Christian holiday. Now, once again, Christians arbitrarily assigned the feast of St. John the Baptist to the summer solstice. In the Christian Bible, it records that Zechariah, the Jewish priest, and Elizabeth, who was the cousin of Mary, the mother of Jesus, received a message from the angel Gabriel that Elizabeth, who was already an old woman, would give birth to a son. But this is recorded in the Gospels, especially the Gospel of Luke. And Luke records that John the Baptist was born half a year before Jesus, which meant that if the Christians assigned arbitrarily the birth of Jesus to the winter solstice, well, then the birth of John the Baptist would be half a year before, so that would make it the summer solstice. Well, this never became a major Christian holiday. It's not a holy day of obligation, but it was an attempt to make the summer solstice a little bit Christian, but it never really succeeded. In fact, I didn't know that John the Baptist was born on the summer solstice until I started doing research for this PowerPoint. Well, the summer solstice remained a pagan holiday. Nothing Christian ever emerged. Bonfires, flowers in your hair, dancing at the beach, going to the nude beach and celebrating the sun. These are not really Christian objects. Well, the summer solstice continued to grow as a pagan holiday. The famous St. John's wort, which is a flower which blooms in midsummer, was associated with the summer solstice. In fact, many people who believe in herbal medicine are convinced that St. John's wort, as it's called, is a cure for depression, menopausal symptoms, hyperactivity disorders, attention deficit, sleeping, fatigue, obsessive compulsive disorder. And many people say that this flower, which blossoms during the spring, during the summer equinox, is a cure for these symptoms. Another plant which blossoms in the summer equinox is rua, which was believed to be an antidote to venomous snake bites. Of course, snakes in midsummer are out in force, as are the mosquitoes in Russia. Even Hasidic Jews argued that rua, when it was placed in amulets or charms, would protect them from epidemics and plagues. Famous Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer argued that it was effective against black magic and the evil eye. So here again, it was not mainstream Judaism that adopted the summer solstice, but it was the Kabbalah which took on many of the pagan traditions associated with the summer solstice. Well, if the Christians pretty well ignored the summer solstice, it was the pagans who ran it. The Druids, who were the Celtic priests of nature. Druids and the Celts are associated with Scotland, Wales, Ireland, Northern England, Normandy, and France. And at one time, the Celts ruled from Turkey to Ireland and down to Spain. Well, the Druids were a group of priests who preserved the pagan holidays. And of course, the most important was, of course, the summer solstice. William Shakespeare wrote his famous A Midsummer Night's Dream, here again, bringing in pixies and fairies and all of these creatures that live in nature. They live in the forests of the north. On the right, we see the famous fairy painting surrounded by flowers. And so the summer solstice was of magical plants, of mystery, of long disappeared civilizations such as that of the Celts and the Druids, the Vikings, the ancient Slavs, the ancient Icelandic peoples. So the holiday remained a folks' holiday, a people's holiday, not at all endorsed, but then again, totally ignored by the Christians. Well, the summer solstice entered an age of popularity and attention with the rise of the New Age movement, which emerged in the 1970s in Europe and the United States. And this was an age when a lot of young people were less than thrilled with the religions of their ancestors, whether it was Protestantism, Catholicism, Judaism, whatever the religion of their European and American ancestors were, they just found it cold and dry. And so the baby boom generation, of which I am a major member, started looking for new types of religions, or religions that would bring some enthusiasm into their life, brings a new dimension. Well, the New Age movement spawned a lot of new religions. The chart shows the Great Decline, 60 years of religion in America. From 1952 into the 60s, the high point of President Eisenhower, the high point of John F. Kennedy. But as the baby boomers were being born and coming of age, we drifted away from mainstream religion, whether it was Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, whatever. We started searching elsewhere. Famous book by Ronald Inglehart, Religion Suddenly Decline. What causing it and what comes next? Black Sabbath, God is dead. Well, new religious movements were created. L. Ron Hubbard's Scientology, one of the most famous, Jews for Jesus, the Unification Movement, commonly called the Moonies, Hare Krishnas, imported Asian religions into America and Europe. I remember going to the Port Authority bus station and seeing Hare Krishna dancers all over the place. People were searching for new religions. Young people were going off to California, joining a cult, joining a sect, experimenting with new religions, much to the chagrin of their nice Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish parents. Old religions were being discovered. revival of the Aztec religion. Books were being written on the teachings of the Aztecs, the Mayas, the Incas. Right, you see Sacred Power, Journey to Teotihuacan, the great pyramids of Egypt and of Mexico. Well, this is not a pyramid in Egypt. This is a pyramid on the outskirts of Mexico City, but it's not tourism anymore. It is the Sacred Power journey, legacy of awareness. Here again, saying that there are more to the Mexican pyramids in Teotihuacan or the Maya pyramids of the Yucatan. There's more than just tourism, that they have a religious message that the New Age movement was seeking to rediscover. Many African Americans started looking back to ancient Egypt for a new form of religion, rejecting the white Christian and Catholic churches and going back to Africa. The Yoruba ritual. Young African Americans started going to Africa, discovering the religion of what they believed to be that of their ancestors. Native Americans started rediscovering the spirituality of their ancestors. And if it had been totally wiped out by Christian missionaries, they would recreate it. Voodoo in New Orleans and Haiti began to be seriously studied. This is not just some primitive superstition. Maybe it has something to say to the modern world, to African Americans, to Indians, and to other baby boom people. In the Northlands, on the map on the left, you see Iceland, you see a X, which I put. That is the Arctic Circle. This is the land of the North, Iceland, Greenland, Northern Canada, chunks of Alaska, big chunk of Northern Russia, Norway, Sweden, Finland. These are the people of the North. Well, in the Northlands, people also started rediscovering the religions of their pre-Christian ancestors. Of course, we call them pagans in Christian circles, but a lot of Northern people started rejecting the word pagan with its negative associations and simply called them the ancient ways, the religions of our ancestors, which had never really died out. If it was just the tradition of making a big bonfire or going to a nude beach and having a picnic on the summer solstice, people started realizing that this was more than just a nice vacation on the longest day of the year, but it was, in its own way, a form of religion. The lands of the North are not the lands of Jesus and Moses and Abraham and the Prophet Muhammad in the deserts of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, Palestine, and Israel. The northern lands are different, and their religions are reflected in the landscape of the North. The long, cold, bitter cold winters give way to spring. Well, what is more natural than to go wild on the longest, the warmest day of the year? So all winter long, and the winter begins early, is brutal. The lakes are frozen. The forested Northlands are covered with ice and snow. People huddle in their houses to keep warm. Even the sky with the northern lights go crazy. So when spring comes, it is a wonderful time, but the best time of the year is to celebrate the day of the sun. Stonehenge has emerged as one of the greatest places to celebrate the summer solstice, along with the pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico and other places. It is the setting and the rising of the sun at Stonehenge, which has really captivated the largest number of people. See people dressed as Druid priests celebrating what they believe to be the ancient rituals. Books such as the Stonehenge Codes, a new light on ancient science, showing the sun and the moon and Stonehenge. Here again, celebrating Stonehenge not just as a tourist site, but discovering a new light that these places contain. An ancient science, ancient religion, ancient knowledge. How could the ancients have brought those stones from a great distance, piled them one on top of the other? The Stonehenge has gone mainstream, and we see plethora of websites, of tour groups going, various religious groups claiming to be the heirs of the ancient people of Stonehenge, going back thousands of years before Christ. And so this has gone mainstream. Many people are showing up, and you can see from the different costumes how they identify as members of a different branch. In Latvia, also in the far north, near Finland and Sweden and northern Russia, it is called the Jani Festival. Once again, the importance of bonfire. What is a candle? It is a small sun. Why do churches and synagogues always have candles? Because that is a miniature sun. And you see the people, even though the people of Latvia are predominantly Lutheran Christians, still they have a tradition of maintaining their summer solstice festival, gathering at the longest day of the year, wearing flowers, greenery in forests. It doesn't take place in a church. It is out in nature. In fact, many people say in Iceland that the pagans are becoming the largest non-Christian denomination. Well, since most Icelanders are Lutheran, very few, if any, Catholics, very few, if any, Jews or Muslims, that's not really saying too much. But still, more and more people are rediscovering the ancient rituals and even the ancient writings and traditions of their ancestors. Once again, on the left, you see a priest with his gathering out in the forest. Now, Iceland is so far north that in Iceland, those few straggly trees would qualify as a dense forest since it is so far north. But they have giant festivals of music. Once again, showing that the summer solstice is more than just a minor holiday, but it is becoming a major holiday in the northern countries. Anchorage, Alaska, as one of the largest celebrations. Well, once again, it is not just going out into nature, but Americans turn everything into a holiday for commerce and entertainment. So that turns into a carnival. But once again, it is a giant carnival of flowers, of light, of forest, celebrating the longest day of the year. Now, the summer solstice, which managed to survive under the cross of the Christian missionaries coming out of Israel, Palestine, the Middle East, conquering Europe, well, the pagan rituals managed to survive. Rediscovered and given great prominence during the 1970s as young people started abandoning the religions of their ancestors, looking for new religions. One of the religions was the solstice, which was rescued from the forests and obscurity and now is becoming a major religious movement. Just the number of books being published recently since the 1970s on pagan rituals. You see Pete Jennings' Pagan Past, A Guide to Wicca, Druidry, Asartu, shamanism, and other pagan practices. To walk a pagan path, practical spirituality for every day. Paganism for beginners, a complete guide to nature-based spirituality. Very important, the link between the summer solstice and the forces of nature. And on the left, you see Martha Morales' Norse paganism. Paganism from A to Z, from the Norse people, the Scandinavians of Northern Europe. Plethora of books exploring the natural religion of nature. Other books, The Pagan Religions of the Ancient British Isles, Pagan Ethics, Introduction to Pagan Studies. More and more books are coming out, and they're not just books, but they're attracting large numbers of followers. Websites, teaching, seminars, tourism, and even organizing religious groups with hierarchies and everything associated with religious groups. Well, like everything, money becomes involved. And so summer solstice is now, part of its success is going commercial. You have a summer solstice in the park, celebration of cultural traditions. This is in Brooklyn. On the right, summer solstice, enjoying the outdoors. Here again, cool treats, sun protection, juices, all kinds of other things to celebrate the summer solstice. Now this one on the right is Canadian, because Canada, largest part of Canada, is to the far north. All kinds of amulets and charms being made by artists to celebrate this new summer solstice and the force of nature. One person who has done a lot to popularize the summer solstice is a woman who has called herself Lady Spring Wolf. And her book, Pagan Metaphysics 101, websites such as metaphysics.com, and the University of Sedona in Arizona, offering classes, lectures, practical instruction on celebrating the pagan holidays of nature. The American Academy of Religion, of which I am a member, has its giant annual meetings somewhere in the United States, attracting tens of thousands of participants, panels on every topic conceivable in religion. Pagan practices and their impediments, the American Academy of Religion in 2013. And so paganism, holidays such as the summer solstice, pagan theologies. This is not just tourism, it's not just fun stuff to get naked and have a bonfire and dance around it during the summer solstice, but they are offering theological insights into nature. Another impetus to the growth of groups like the summer solstice is the links that this revival of paganism and of nature religions have received from the ecology movement. The concern with global warming, with forest fires, with droughts, with the rising of the seas, the pollution of the atmosphere, the lack of water. Movements such as the summer solstice movement and paganism have taught to make people aware of the reality of nature, such as the book On the Right, Paganism, an introduction to earth-centered religions. Well, religions, as I said at the very beginning, have always been to a certain extent earth-centered, whether it is the winter solstice holiday season, the spring season, or the fall season. Religions have always been concerned with nature. Well, the summer solstice was largely neglected by the major religions. And so it has become the main focus of a new form of religion. Once again, celebrating the forces of nature, celebrating the change of seasons, and especially celebrating the importance of the sun and its interaction with the earth. All kinds of new studies have come out, such as the Tree of Life, describing the upper world, the middle world, the underworld, the various practices of the pagans in reforging the bond between humans and nature. No longer polluting the atmosphere, burning gasoline and fuel, chopping down forests, polluting the oceans and the waters, but respecting the importance and the power of nature. Well, I wish everybody a happy summer solstice. Find a group near you that celebrates nature. And you live in the Northern Hemisphere, on July 20, 21, and 22, appreciate the force of nature, the changing cycle of the seasons. Go out into the forest. It's a holiday not in the walls of churches or synagogues or mosques, but a celebration of nature. So if you have any ideas you'd like to share with me, send an email to ronbrownmedia@gmail.com. I am always interested in exploring religious movements, the wonderful world of world religions is an ever-growing, ever-changing, ever-evolving study. On the right, you see me when I was in West India, in Goa and Mumbai, going up the coast, coming across a poster of a World Yoga Festival, another New Age religion that has started spreading around the world. Once again, making people aware of not just the forces of nature, but the force of the human body, cultivating the internal forces of the body. So on that note, I would love to thank you for joining me today for this discovery of the summer solstice. And I hope to see you sometime in the near future. So, Dr. Ronald Brown signing off. Thank you.